wonderful topic. That's, in as much as I am presenting this to you, or also actually teaching myself, because it's really very good. Now, we are trying to tackle the issue of emotional intelligence. It's a broader scope, but we are trying to narrow it down to the petroleum industry, and also this being the Society of Petroleum Engineers. So then I would like to make it more relatable in that aspect. Please, I would want to confirm whether the PPT that I shared with Fortune is being shared with you all.
Hello, Desmond. Please, I'm working on that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So should I quit stalling or I can proceed? Okay, then I think I'll just make an improvise. So before we begin, I think I would entreat us to try and get to know ourselves. So once you already have gotten the introduction of me. So I am the person of Desmond Nakwai, and basically, per the profile that was being read out loud to all of us, I think I am already exposed and I feel more vulnerable to you all. So if we can make that level of vulnerability quite balanced, then I think I would like to open the room up for all of us to introduce ourselves, not in any particular order, but then if you would like to introduce yourself to, then you just show by hand so that you introduce yourself. I think it's best that once we are studying about emotional intelligence, we also get to know ourselves too. So please put up by hand, then kindly introduce yourself. I'm tempted to call a fellow Desmond. I'm seeing Desmond Ayamba, and I feel like I want to call him. Hello, Desmond Ayamba, please, are you there? Hello, please, can you hear me? Hello. Hello, please, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Desmond.
Okay. All right. So I was asking for us to introduce ourselves so that we'll be able to get an interactive session right here, right now, so that it would be more relatable to all of us. Okay, so I've seen a hand. Okay, please, you can speak. Leslie, please, you can speak.
Oh, okay. Leslie says you're not allowed to speak. Ejapon, can you please update the room in such a way that all participants are able to unmute themselves?
I've allowed it.
Okay, so I'm sure you should be able to speak now, Leslie.
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening / good afternoon. Yes.
All right.
I'm Leslie Brown Mauli. Yes, I'm Leslie
Okay.
Brown Mauli. I'm the SPE president, student chapter president for Regional Maritime University, and I'm third year marine engineering student, and I have interest in petroleum and also marine engineering, that kind of blend industry. And I'm excited to learn more about emotional intelligence and neuroscience, that kind of vibe. So I'm pleased to be here and to learn from all of us. Thank you all for this opportunity.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you too. It's quite wonderful with the introduction that you were given. Just one question came to mind. What has somebody who is in the petroleum and the marine industry got to do with emotional intelligence? Like what concern is it of to you? Like you are in the marine and petroleum industry. Emotional intelligence, they're all the you are going to work with machines and a whole lot of things. So emotional intelligence, what are you going to use for your expectations?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. You see, when we think of this kind of things, we should also consider the people over there and the situations they face. You know, when you find yourself offshore in this kind of industry, be it marine industry or petroleum industry, looking at the way usually it is, in my view, usually it's offshore, far from your family, your friends, and people on contract and stuff. So usually are not able to relate with people and stuff, and they're working clash. So it's your thinking, your relations with people, the way you are able to handle pressure, different environments, and also keep working as well, and also able to manage your environment and everything. And most importantly, yourself, you know, you're able to continue to focus and deliver time and again. These are all
Okay.
things that you be able to know as a person. Before you get me?
Okay. Thank you
I
very
believe
much. Now,
it's a needed skill to have.
all right. That's true. That's true. Very true. All right. Exactly as you said. So that means it's of great importance to each and every one of us to consider our emotional intelligence, even though in the course of, I wouldn't be a spoiler, so I would keep it to myself here in the course of a lesson. But then we will come to learn that to some extent, it is what we even need the most, actually. To some extent, it is what we need the most. And okay, the slide is being shared. All right, wonderful. So I think I can proceed. But in the course of it, to the very end, there would be an interactive session. So those of us who haven't spoken yet would get the opportunity to speak and also ask questions. And I plan for that to be a game. So if we're able to finish quite in time, we'll be able to do all that. All right. So emotional intelligence is what we want to discuss and specifying it or narrowing it down to the petroleum industry. Now, emotional intelligence is, as I said earlier on, it's either termed as EQ or emotional intelligence. So, and the Q is quotient. So just like we have the intelligence quotient, we have the emotional quotient too as well. So when you hear EQ, it shouldn't be anything new to you. When you hear EI, it shouldn't be new to you. Now, when we talk of emotional intelligence, it has to do with recognizing, understanding, managing, and also influencing the emotions that are within you, a particular person, and also in another person. So first off, it starts with you as a person. It's not so far from do unto others what you want others to do unto you. It's not so far from it. It's basically it. So you would have to know how to recognize your own emotions, understand your emotions, know how to manage your emotions, and also know how you yourself you can influence your own emotions. You can force it to be altered or kind of like controlled it to a certain level. So that's where we talk about you influence and having an influence on your own emotions or making the emotions also have an influence on you. So you control to what level that particular emotion would actually control or make you react. That's what we talk about when we talk about the influence. Then influencing others. When it comes to the influence as well, it's to some level. So in the studies of emotional intelligence, as I also got a training one time some years ago, it was to some level, it has its pros and cons. It has the positive side and the negative side. So to somebody who is so knowledgeable in emotional intelligence or has much knowledge about emotional intelligence, they can use it to their let's say advantage, right, over other people, which is very bad, which is very bad. So they tend to be manipulative in a way because of the knowledge they have about all this. But that's the negative aspect. But then to the positive aspect is how you can actually help people with the knowledge that you have about emotions and how a person is able to think and react based on whatever it is that they go through. Then you'll be able to channel it and know how well you can relate. That's what emotional intelligence is. And the education is more about how well we can use this intelligence and not about the negative aspect. When you study atomic physics, you are never taught in class how to use atomic physics to create bombs. You would actually be given that insight that yes, there are people who have used it in creating bombs and did the negative side and all, but you are never encouraged to go and also use it for creating of bombs. In that sense, you never win a Nobel Prize in the first place. All right. So now, thanks to Daniel Goleman, he formulated a model, right? So he was the very first person I was talking about that helped us to come to the knowledge of this phrase, emotional intelligence. Now, to him, on a very podcast that he has, which is youth, young and what profiting. That's what the podcast is about. And it talks about how to level up your emotional intelligence, right? It talks about that. And I encourage that each and every one of us would try our very best to go and listen in on this podcast. It's quite insightful. Then he mentions that self-awareness in a person to be able to grow their knowledge in terms of emotional intelligence. First of all, the first thing that they need to do is know themselves, knowing themselves and knowing their own emotions. So that's their self-awareness, right? So a person needs to know themselves. It's not far away from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like in terms of our self-identity, the very basic needs, things that you need no matter what in this life you can't do without. And to be able to go in terms of your intelligence, emotional intelligence, the very key thing to do to start from, where you need to start from, has to do with knowing your emotions. So you have to be very much aware about how easily you get angry. Okay, how some things you can be able to cope with them and it wouldn't really be much of a bother to you. Okay, so it's not a bother to you, but then that does that mean that you should go on to project that thing onto other people? Like if you have that knowledge, okay, you have this level of coping mechanism, so you can be able to handle these things. But then can the other person on the other end handle those things? Do they have that same thing as you? And when you start talking about this or you start reasoning in this level, you'll be like, Indian say, you're going to say, India will be home for and I say we should tease somebody. nobody would tease anybody again, and it wouldn't be nice. Because at least sometimes you have to tease people. It's not as if you can't do that, but then emotional intelligence helps you to actually pay attention to some of these things, and you start being more considerate. And trust me, it doesn't take any fun away from you if you are considerate. You rather now tend to be more particular and know what specifically is needed to entertain somebody. Because in some settings, as most of us don't have much knowledge about emotional intelligence and all that, we go on to tease people who do not find it so welcoming. But then, see, we have this setting where when the person tries to point out that they are not so okay with that particular situation, we end up making fun of them. And it's even worse. So to be able to cope with it, they try to kind of like laugh along with everything that is going on. Then at the end of the day, all the effects and the other side of it that has to come along with it would be on the person's shoulders. The person will be carrying it, but because we all can't see it, everybody just goes about with their daily activities. And this person becomes low on productivity. And you will never know that it was due to this teasing here and there that actually caused it. And should he voice it out, the best one is that on your man and on your say. And the worst part of it all, well, black men are hard. So Charlie, first thing is men are supposed to be hard guys. Then now you're also a black man on top of it, Charlie. You have to be the hardest. But then that is not the case. That's not the case. I think Trinity Jonas would say what Bibini and Nipa was saying. That's what he says, I guess. Then, aside being very much aware of one's own emotions, it also comes to self-management. Self-management. Being able to manage one's own emotions and motivate oneself. Now, there's one thing about self-motivation. I tend to say in some cases to some people that motivation does not come to the unprepared, and it mostly comes to the one who is already at work. So when you see somebody listening to motivational speech or something, it should be to somebody who is working and wants to stay in the mode of working. So he has to intentionally put in a mechanism that will help him stay constant on that level of thinking to keep up with the work that he's doing. But for somebody who hasn't even been able to get out of bed and he's playing a motivational message, like to even get, you are not even motivating yourself personally. So to even get up, okay, you get up and you don't even know what it is that you want to be doing. Okay, you are motivated, you have that fire rushing within you, but then what are you going to do? Now you're stuck. You don't even know that you're supposed to even plan out your activities. So what then do you proceed with? Which first thing would you tackle in the course of the day? So it is very necessary that one would be able to manage their own emotions through self-motivation. So you have to personally know how your emotions can affect you both positively and negatively. So should there be, because there's that possibility every now and then, when we talk about someone being hardworking, it's not that the person is hardworking without the presence of work. There has to be work for us to be able to determine whether the person is hardworking or not. So in the face of negativity, how well can we say that this person has a very strong mindset? This person has like this high level of optimism. It's in the face of these challenges. So the person should be able to know how to manage their own emotions so that when they face these uncertain situations, they would be able to know how to overcome them and be able to handle all the stress that comes towards their way. So in a way, emotional intelligence also helps you in terms of managing stress. Because in terms of stress management, you realize that there's a whole lot of emotions that are tied to it. There are a whole lot of things that are tied to it, and emotions are one of them. Now, the third other thing too is being able to manage your relationship. Remember, I said first that it starts with you, the person, then it extends on to other people. So you do unto others what you want others to do unto you, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. First, you can't go on to love people even when you hate yourself. When you hate yourself so much, eventually what you'll be projecting onto people will just be hate. But then when you love yourself so much, you hope for good for yourself. There's no way you hope for evil for someone. There's no way you hope for evil for someone. Unless you are that selfish. But then I don't think nobody who is that good would hope for evil for another person. Then there's the fourth one, which is social awareness. So you realize that on one end of the components of emotional intelligence, there's one that is pertaining to yourself, and there's one that is pertaining to other people. So self-awareness, self-management. Then we come to social awareness and relationship management. So how well you are aware of your surroundings and the people within the locality or that environment that you are within, and how you're able to manage your relationship with people. Right. So that's what emotional intelligence is solely about. And another wonderful phrase about emotional intelligence is being mindful. If you would like to take note of that, you have to be mindful. It's a very short phrase to as well, but then it says a lot. Just being mindful about what it is that you do to yourself and to others. Now, we'd want to go into how can a person develop self-awareness, right? These points are not entirely all that there is in terms of being self-aware, but it's something little that can help out. So first thing that a person should be able to pick up is being able to start journaling. Right. So try your very best. See, and most of the time, right, the great things come out of smaller things, like little actions. I'm probably sure most of us here now are very much aware that in as much as laying of our beds is something little, it is so much connected to how productive our day will end up. So little it is when it comes to laying off your bed, but then it's so much connected to how productive you are, and it's so connected. So journaling your emotions, to some level, to some people too, will be like, okay, that's corny. Why would you probably want to write like everything that you actually do? Very necessary. I think somebody's microphone is on. All right. Okay. So it is very necessary that a person would be able to learn how to journal their emotions. And in a way, it also helps you to manage your emotions as well. Just writing it down. It helps you to visualize what it is that you are experiencing or going through inwardly. It's so abstract. You can't touch it. You can't put your finger on it. But then, so long as you project that emotion, whatever it is that you're going through on a piece of paper, to some level, it helps you handle what it is that you are going through, whatever it is that you are experiencing. Okay, I am feeling like I'm getting angry. The very minute you write that, eventually the next thing that comes to mind is what is causing this anger. You start writing it down, then the next minute what you realize is you are taking notes of yourself. You are taking notes of yourself, and okay, this thing is making me pissed. What do I want to do about it? Do I want to be pissed more? Do I want to step away from this person? Okay, no, I think getting pissed is not really helping me because I can see that I have work right in front of me, but I'm getting mad by what this particular person is doing that I'm not even being productive. So then, in a way, it helps you to be mindful or very much aware of what it is that is going on within you so that you can be able to handle it. So journaling is something that I would entreat each and every one of us to do. Like, write something down, write something down, write something down. We shouldn't go lazy about doing that. Even though that feeling comes, but then I'll urge us that we should try our very best to journal or write something down. Then, like I said earlier on, practice mindfulness and reflection. So reflect on yourself. What progress have you made so far? What traits have you picked up? Which ones are helping you? Which ones are not helping you? Is it leading you to where you want to go? Is it making you feel the best of yourself? So as you start reflecting, you start realizing that, okay, there are certain things that you need to let go of. There are certain things that are holding so much onto, which is rather killing you than rather helping you to be peaceful with your own self. Then you need to try and get feedback from others. In as much as you try to get feedback from others to better yourself, you realize that it tends to also strengthen the bond that you have with people. It will strengthen the bond that you have with people because in a way, people realize that, okay, you are that humble and you also appreciate corrections. You also appreciate feedback. Then people would tend to also try and be paying attention to you. Now, they don't just pay attention to what you do to just keep it to themselves and just take notes that people want to say. But then they know that at some point, you might probably ask them for feedback. You might probably want to know what it is that you've done wrong. And they'll find it easy to point it out to you. So developing that sense of self-awareness indeed helps a person to build that level of emotional intelligence. And also practicing self-management, right? So one has to prioritize pausing before reacting to certain scenarios. Now, when we talk about a person pausing before reacting, please, I'm on the next slide, but then I'll proceed. When we talk about a person pausing before reacting, it actually gives a person quite the time to assess whatever is going on. Now, I didn't speak so much away from the Bible, right? So the Bible talks about being quick to listen, but then slow to speak. Now, trust me, I've practiced it quite a while, and in as much as maybe somebody will complain, hey, Anna, like probably if somebody complains that Anna auto once and wakasao, but then auto bona wakasao, and later at the end of the day, what you produce or what comes out of your mouth is uplifting. It is reasonable. It is positive. There's no way people would complain. They would rather appreciate the fact that you are not haughty, you are not always in haste when it comes to talking. And see, at the end of the day, somebody can conclude and say that you are very thoughtful and you are mindful of your words. That's what somebody can conclude and say in the end, just by you being what? Slow to speak. So you pause before react, whatever the situation is. Just not always react immediately. You have to sometimes pause before you act and make the right decision. You are not, rest assured, to always make the right decision all the time, but then you can actually reduce the level of risk that you might probably cause if you take your time to react and not always just react when your emotions are that high. And when it comes to reacting as well, whether your emotions are, be it being so happy or be it so sad, both of them, it's not advised that you should react when these emotions are all on a higher level. Because at that point in time, you are barely reasoning through what it is that you are doing. Also, when you are job farmer, the amount of money that I'm not supposed to give to a particular person, that's what you give to the person. And by the time you realize now, the money that you use for transport is what you've given out to the person. So then, unfortunately, by that time, you wouldn't be able to go forever, and that becomes the last of you, right? So it's very necessary that a person would pause before reacting, and there's also developing special coping strategies. So there's deep breathing. It's a very common one that we all when you find yourself in a higher level of emotions and you realize that when you decide to react on that particular instance, it wouldn't help. You can just take in a little, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. If you don't want it to be that obvious, it's easy to do as well. It's not very much of a big deal. You're already breathing out, breathing in, breathing out already. But then it's just taking a very quite stressed one, very lengthy breathing, and a very lengthy breathe out too. Then there are other scenarios too. For me, when I'm sitting around a desk, I got for myself a die, right? A die. So if it happens that I'm a bit stressed and stuck between a particular work that I'm doing, I just pick up the die, like a Ludo die. So just flip it number of times and see how many times I'll get 6. So it just takes me away from whatever it is that I'm doing. Then once, I feel like, I've had enough of it, then I just come back to the work that I'm doing. So these are also coping strategies that a person can pick up. They could also pick up that strategy of probably walking away from whatever is causing your emotions to rise. Because step away from it, do some time away from it, then you come back to it when your emotions are very normal and quite under control. Then you know that you are okay to actually assess or handle this particular situation at a particular point in time. And a person also have to stay accountable of their emotions, regardless, no matter what it is that you do. You should hold yourself accountable because every action that is coming based on whatever thing a person did. Not forgetting from the beginning, emotional intelligence talks about what influencing the emotions of what yourself and others. So in as much as we are talking about you or we are relating it to our own selves, the same way another person on the other hand is also entitled to what practice emotional intelligence, and they are accountable for influencing what your emotions as well. But then when you're also about to react or when you also react, you should not find yourself putting yourself in that state that you blame others for your action. Because when you tend to do that, there will never be a time where you accept that you did something wrong and you would have to correct it. Because every now and then you are justified by whatever you did because this person did this. So I had to do this. So long as you justify yourself, then there's no way you would even correct it. You will feel like it's right already. So it will be good that we also try our very best to stay accountable for our emotions in terms of improving upon our emotional intelligence. Then in terms of practicing relationship management and social awareness, right? So this is tackling both the one that has to do with people and not we ourselves. People and not we ourselves. So social awareness and relationship management. And it's specifically embedded in cultivating empathy. That's what relationship management and social awareness is about. Empathy is basically about, or simply put, putting yourself in another person's shoes. We use this phrase so much, but I think barely do we practice it. Put yourself into someone's shoes, right? That's what cultivating empathy is. Now, one can be able to achieve that if we practice active listening. So you wouldn't want to find yourself in a situation where you have a miscommunication. So upon further research, as I was trying my best to make sure that this presentation is tailored to petroleum engineers, I decided to, you can say, a ride along. I call it a ride along, as most movies or movie actors do before they go for a movie that they are going to act in. Yeah, so I tried to check out what goes on in the petroleum industry. Then I came across an oil spillage, so an accident that happened in Mexico. And the accident was just due to a miscommunication. So the right information was not passed on. Then the measure that had to be taken was one that had been warned on that they shouldn't carry out this particular measure. But then at the end of the day, they still went on to go for the cement and use the cement rather as a measure to fill the pipes that they were going to use to drill all the way into the ground on the ocean, so offshore. And it was just due to miscommunication. And if one would want to do away with any form of miscommunication, it's just by practicing active listening. When the one speaking is giving out the information, the best thing a person can do is to pay attention. Pay attention. And once you are paying attention, if it so happens that you lose track of what the person is saying, active listening doesn't mean in a ideal case, automatically, when you say, okay, I want to actively listen to this person, then automatically, no matter what, you'll be hearing everything that a person says. But then active listening has to do with hello. All right, I proceed. So active listening has to do with the fact that when you tend to listen to a person and at a point in time you didn't lose focus, you should be able to point it out to the person that, okay, wait, you lost me over here, or I got lost at this point. So when it comes to active listening, a person is even able to point out where exactly they got lost in the conversation. So that's when it points out that, okay, this person was really listening. So it's not about, okay, when you say you are listening to the person and you're active, then from beginning to end, you heard every single thing. You might lose track at one point. But then when you are practicing that sport, conscious listening, you will be able to point it out to the person, okay, you got lost at this particular point in time. Then how to be able to promote this sense of active listening. On the other end, you can also try your very best to paraphrase whatever it is that the person has already said. When you do that, give the person who is speaking that sense that you are indeed listening to what it is that I'm saying. You are paying attention. So you try your very best to paraphrase. And there's also that strategy of doing, okay, oh, okay, oh, all right, oh, yeah, okay. So that kind of thing gives the person that feeling that, okay, you are there with them. And it also helps you to kind of stay on track, because you wouldn't want to be doing, because you have people who can also do that. Remember I said people who have much knowledge about emotional intelligence, some people tend to use it in a negative sense. Somebody is literally not listening, but he knows that when he does, you feel like he's listening. So he will use it to his advantage and really not listen. So we wouldn't want to go to that aspect, but the positive, staying on the positive side. Kind of like, okay, letting the person know that, all right. So you can even listen, and I don't know if most of us have, I'm probably sure, that we've already encountered this before, that sometimes when a person is speaking and you are really paying attention to them, you can even in a way finish their sentences, because you know what it is that a person is trying to drive at. So you can even help the person to finish their sentences. But when you are really not listening, when a person is even not remembering the right way to put in whatever it is that they want to say, you can't even help the person out because you don't even know what they are talking about. It's obviously like that. And we also have to try our very best to avoid interrupting people when they are working or when they are speaking to. So it's good to wait for a person to learn. It's quite different from saying, oh, okay, oh, all right, and trying to finish their sentences rather than um, interrupting what they are saying. Because when it comes to interrupting, it's like you are stopping a person from talking and you want to say what it is that you want to say. So you want the person to rather listen to you rather than you listen to the person. And you also have to be watchful about the non-verbal cues too. So the hesitations about the person and also their facial expressions too. They really do count. So in terms of active listening, the listening doesn't only rely on just the hearing aspect. It also considers looking into the eyes or looking into the face of the person. A lot of us don't know how to build eye contact. A lot of us don't know how to do that, but I would urge each and every one of us to try our very best to build that trait up. It's something that you would have to take that into consideration. You have to be mindful about it. You have to be intentional about looking into the eyes of a person. You can do it to some extent and literally just take off your eye and still then you bring your eye back to the person. Let the person know that you are paying attention to them and you lock eyes with them. Okay. Until maybe it's getting weird and just look elsewhere for some few minutes or seconds. All right. So continuing in the practicing of relationship management and social awareness, there's also that of empathy in high pressure scenarios when there is that pressure on the people to work. And in the petroleum industry too, it's quite something that is very common. So there's pressure on you to get a job done. The only time where there is break is when literally you have actually put other things in place, put certain things in place, and okay, there is this break time, so you are supposed to go for this break, and you are in that best position to go for that break. But every now and then, I realize from the research I did that once there is work, there's always pressure. Because from one documentary, the one speaking was like, he was even cautioned to make sure that he doesn't even read on any of the machines. Because if he intentionally tries to be like, oh, he's pressing a button, it will cost the company millions of dollars. And that's a huge risk nobody will want to take. So in terms of high pressure scenarios, an individual should be able to assess their environment, know their environment and know that, okay, this is what is currently going on. And I have to understand that everybody is busy, everybody is under pressure. So even if I want to voice out my opinion, if I want to say this, I should know how to say it. Because if I make any mistake and I end up not saying it well, I might end up what? Causing somebody to be angry. And that anger might end up affecting the work itself. So we need to also know how to acknowledge what any form of stress that is occurring in the work field. And this is also out of work too as well, how we relate with people. And also learn how to offer support before criticizing people. So an example is, oh, I see why you chose that approach, but let's adjust for safety. That's like kind of related to the workspace. So in a way, it's kind of, you are giving a suggestion, but you provide it in a very nice way. A person tries his or her best, and you acknowledge the effort. Like, oh, well done. That's very good. That's very good. But I think you can add this or that to it to make it better. So in a way, you have made a person know that you acknowledge what they've done, and what they've done is good. And to make it become better, you should add this and that to it. And makes it very nice. So at the end of the day, we get the result, productivity is on the rise. Good, that's positive. But if The very minute you see it now, what is this? What have you done? Is that how you were taught to do it? In a way, you've actually demoralized the person, and the person would literally feel down. The person will literally feel down and will not feel encouraged to proceed in the course of the work. And that in that case, we can say that this particular person is not emotionally intelligent. So emotional intelligence is about being mindful and paying much attention to what is going on with you and also with others. I'm not done with the presentation, but if there are any questions all the way to this point, I would want to pause and allow for any questions that are there. If anybody has a question that they would want to ask. Hello.
So that's one.
Yes, please.
That was my question. Thank you very
You
much.
have a question?
Thank you for, yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation so far. I was wondering, in a situation where I understand that there's a thing of pressure in the workplace and all, but what about a situation where the pressure is on me, like there's a lot of pressure on me. I have to meet deadlines. There's so much work for me to do, and like I'm just ablaze in the moment. And then how do I position myself so that when I'm handling a business, especially in dealing with people, I'm not um, uh, you know putting myself in a position where my emotions are taking over, and then as a matter of fact, at that point, I'm even so heated, I might not even realize that this is not me talking, but my emotions talking. So, how do I best position myself to make sure that I am, being myself as best as possible when I'm in that heightened sense of state?
Okay. Okay. That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Okay, so a situation where the pressure is kind of on you, right? And you are having a project that you are working on. Now, I would say that there's no project that a person would want to carry on that they would say that they would want to carry it all out by themselves. Or has there ever been somebody who invented something and the person did it all by themselves? So you see, we've had situations where some people were not having this education that we are getting now, or we're not having this knowledge about emotional intelligence. So they had to actually endure whatever it is that they were going through and still handle it with the work that they had to carry out. And in some cases, they end up screwing up the whole job that they are doing and make some unnecessary mistakes that they were not supposed to make. Now, to be able to handle such situations, I would say that when you realize that you are in that level of heightened emotions, the best thing to do is one of them could be to entrust the work to another person. I believe to some level you have somebody that who is an assistant or who is a partner with whom you are working with. So a person who is so much aware about their emotions would know the state that they are in and know how to even communicate it to the other person or their partner. Let the person know that I am really not feeling good. I am feeling angry at this particular point in time. Not by anything, but then by the fact that this particular thing that I'm doing, I'm just not getting any results. Like, I'm not really feeling good about this. So can you just handle this for me for the meantime? I'll be back. I'm just taking a walk or stepping away from it. When you do that, that alone, it tells the person that, okay, you are very much aware of the work they are supposed to do. This is not the case that I ran away from the work. But then whatever you are doing is overwhelming you, is getting you off track, and you have to step away from it. So the person understands, and whoever is taking over would know that, okay, we have to let this person come and take over and handle the situation at hand. Or it could also be a situation that you're also under a deadline. You're also under a deadline, and you have to be able to deliver on time. So if you're on a deadline and you have to deliver on time, and you are very much aware about what they are going to do, when you try to handle it all by yourself, probably you might end up with disappointing those that are supposed to deliver the work to. So then you would employ the help of others. So all I'm trying to communicate at this point in time is emotional intelligence helps us in collaborations. So when you're very much aware about whatever it is that you're going through with your heightened emotions, you would call in for help. You would call in for support. But somebody who is not much aware about their emotions and how it can affect the work, they continue to reside in it. So it's like a ticking time bomb, and you are still sitting in it. Are you okay? Can't you see that the bomb is ticking and you have some few seconds to make it out of here? But then somebody who is so much not aware about the ticking time bomb and what it can do to him, and also the seconds left, they will still continue sitting with it. But somebody who is very much aware would what? Run away from it, get themselves in the best position, wait for that thing to explode, then now they can return back to the situation or that particular problem. So I would say that that would be the best way to kind of like handle it, because emotional intelligence actually helps us to collaborate more with other people. Because no matter what, emotions are inevitable. They are inevitable when it comes to we even keeping our jobs. I promised that I was going to say it in the course of the presentation, so maybe probably it's now that it has come up. So there's a part in the presentation where we talk about EQ versus IQ. So probably if I don't forget, I would mention it in that aspect. But I hope I haven't spoken so much that I haven't really nailed your question on the head.
No, please.
Please come again.
I got your points. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so I think we can proceed with the presentation. All right, so we continue with practicing relationship management and social awareness, and we would also want to consider observing team dynamics. So this is the case where you actually acknowledge the differences between the people, you and the people that you are working with, and the diverse roles that other people have to play, and also their nature, their mannerism, their culture, where they are coming from. So just like it has been said already, emotional intelligence is all about being mindful, like being mindful, being observant, like taking note of the little details. Like you can't afford to be ignorant. So you have to pay attention. So that's what it's about. So if you're emotionally intelligent, you will start taking note of these little things, and you would work around them. So we use what we are given. So people that we have around us, based on their diverse nature, we work with that. So you go on to work with them based on the diversity that they come with. Not that you go on to work based on what you think it is and how you see things. At the end of the day, you wouldn't end up being productive with these people that are supposed to work with, because you are not able to see things from their point of view. You don't necessarily have to go and experience all that they've experienced to be able to work with them. But all you have to do is you have to observe the team dynamics and know how you can collaborate with them. And if there happens to be some form of tension that occurs between you people and nobody is even speaking up, you would find a need to address it because it is causing the team a lot. So it has to be voiced out so that you know how to handle it. Now, in terms of the petroleum industry, there are shifts that is being run, and there might also be the possibility that day the day shift feels like they do more work than the night shift. The night shift crew also feel like they do more work than the day shift people. Then that becomes a new level of competition. And little might you know that somebody might end up using that to create some level of tension between both parties. Then now, should there be the case that, okay, somebody has been moved from the night shift crew to the day shift crew, then because he was from the night shift crew and there was that competition or contention between them, now he comes to the day shift crew and he's not really welcome. Why? Because you and I had a grudge some time ago. But then when you have that level of emotional intelligence, you realize that no. This is not really about us. It's not about this person having a higher position than this, having a higher productivity than this other person. And the nature of the work has gotten this person to now work with us. What is necessary is knowing how to work with this person and get productivity rather than making it more or less about me. So in a way, we'll have to do our best to know how to observe the team dynamics so that we can be able to work with other people. And that's one aspect of emotional intelligence. That's practicing social awareness and also knowing how to really manage the relationship with other people. And there's also the case of knowing how to read the room. Now, I placed that image of an apple, which is different from the rest. So the rest are red, and that's the only green one. And we are all talking about how nice our red outfit looks like. Then you start pointing out your green shirt. You would obviously become the odd one amongst us. You would obviously be looked at in a certain way. We are talking about red shirts, and you are talking about green shirts. Like, they would find it hard to connect with you because you are not being relatable at that particular point in time. Probably what you might be saying is the best, it's needed, it's very important, but it's not relatable to the topic of discussion. So sometimes you should learn to be able to read the room in terms of a meeting or in terms of maybe socialization or something like that, when we are to speak and when we are not supposed to speak. And this has a relation with the yin yang symbol, like knowing the balance in this life of ours, that you understand very well that there's a point in time when you're supposed to act and there's a point in time when you're supposed to stay calm. So knowing how to read the room is just about being observant and nothing more to that. Knowing how to be observant. Nobody is born with all the knowledge in this world and born with perfection. But then we all try our very best that every now and then, every situation that we find ourselves in, we try our very best to observe the situation. And when you try to do the observation at that particular point in time, that's when the pausing comes in before you react. So you pause before you react. Okay. All right. Then Okay, I think I've already talked about this. So pausing before react and developing coping strategies and staying accountable for our emotions. I think I've talked about this once again. All right, so now a person with high EI versus a person with low EI. Right. So how will we know that okay, this person is having a high emotional intelligence and this person has a low emotional intelligence? Because when it comes to IQ can be tested. We have IQ tests. We have IQ tests. For emotional intelligence tests, for those ones, that one it has to do with real practical issues or life issues. We can only affirm that wow, this person is really thoughtful based on the situation that is at hand. So IQ is quite on a different level, and emotional intelligence is on a different level. But probably if we didn't know before today, then we know now that emotional intelligence is higher than IQ. Emotional intelligence is higher than IQ. So when we have a situation at hand now, in terms of somebody losing a loved one, right? See how sometimes that situation becomes so dicey. You wouldn't know how exactly you have to address it. Should I approach the person and be like, oh, be fine? Will you tell the person be fine? Or God knows best? Or you tell the person that oh, it will be all right? Or like, oh, okay, don't worry, you cry, you can cry, you can cry. Like, what should he say? What should he say? Right? But then sometimes when you want to be able to tell from how a person handles a particular problem, then a person goes to this particular individual and just calms the person down, just sits next to the person and barely says a thing, but then just holds the person and tries to like grab the person on the shoulder and let the person okay cry so without the person really saying anything. And the person just endures and spends the time with the person. Then over some few minutes, when he realizes, and that's true observation, the person observes and realizes that okay, the person is now calming down, is barely crying now. Then the next question the person asks is, are you okay? Then the person just gets overwhelmed and barely knows what to say because you would at that point in time feel like, wow, this is really thoughtful. He didn't just come and all of a sudden just started talking. He actually observed and took his time, allowed me to cry. And in most cases like that, you can't tell a person to stop crying because the person is emotional at that point in time. And when our emotions are heightened to that level, the best point in time when you can reason with the person is when it has descended and has calmed down a bit. So we don't rush to do that. And that's when you can really tell that, oh, this person is really intelligent emotionally. Now, there's also the case of some people who are also not intelligent to that level, right? And all this comes with broadening of one's knowledge, knowing more, learning more about other people, and also being self-aware of what it is that they go through. So just like we started from the beginning, how a person works on their emotional intelligence, basically like that. So from you who has become emotionally intelligent, now you can be able to tell that this person has a low level of emotional intelligence because to some level, you can't say that somebody has no intelligence emotionally at all. People do, like, so we all have, we are all emotionally intelligent. But then, is our emotional intelligence that high or low, right? So that's where the variation comes in. All right. So EQ versus IQ, I think we are almost about to wrap up. So EQ versus IQ. Now, I tend to put this movie there, probably so we can all relate to it. So, believe we've all watched Young Sheldon before. I'm trying to make a relation to season 2, episode 15 or so. Yeah. So there was that point in time. I don't know if anybody remembers that scene. You can raise up your hand and share with us what I'm trying to drive at. I just want somebody to surprise me. On that day when I was actually watching it, I actually paid attention to that part. So I want to find out if somebody also thinks like me. Please, who can guess what I want to talk about? First of all, please, how many of us have watched Young Sheldon? Oh, did somebody just show it on? Okay, if not watch, okay, fortunately, if not watch Young Sheldon. And we are all a petroleum engineers and we are so focused on the oil and gas. So we don't have time for Young Sheldon. Okay, all right. Let's proceed. Okay, so this particular episode that I want to actually make reference to was a scene, and for me, I in particular, I'm a physics enthusiast, and as was my portfolio, having the ambition to become a research physicist. But when I was watching this, anytime I watch Young Sheldon, it's not as if I get angry at him, but I tell my friends that he's not smart. He's just knowledgeable, he's not smart. So and he just gets me pissed. Ironically, that's not what everybody sees, but for me, it gets me pissed. So in this particular episode, so they went for an IQ test. They had to test them, so the doctor had to test them. But Sheldon was so focused about the fact that he had to prove that he was smart. And that's where his mind is always is. But then his smartness is based on knowledge that he has accumulated all this while. It's just based on knowledge that he has accumulated all this while. So a person can pass a couple of tests and all that, but then doesn't mean that the person is emotionally intelligent or has a high level of emotional quotient. So a person can score a higher score in terms of intelligence quotient, but then would have a low EQ. And somebody can be emotionally intelligent, have a higher EQ, and would be guaranteed of having a very workable and manageable IQ. So IQ cannot guarantee EQ, but then EQ can guarantee an IQ. Now, I want to relate it into the working field. Assuming a particular individual is two people, so two people. One is very good in terms of differential equations and stuff. He can do all the integrals and whatever and what so not. He can do all that. Now, due to that level of knowledge, and let's say this person is also good with in terms of data analytics, he's very good. He's very knowledgeable. Then he attains this job at let me see. Okay, say GNPC. He gets a job over there, fine. Then he goes there to work. Then there's this other person. Okay, he's not that giddy with a higher IQ like the first person, but he's very workable. You can work with him fine. But surprisingly, this person has a higher IQ. He knows how well he can work with people. He knows to work with others as well. Then this person also welcomes the fact that he can learn from other people. in the first place, he's somebody you can work with. The one with the higher IQ too, he has been employed because of his skills, because of his values. But then surprisingly, the one with the higher EQ can maintain or keep his job. But the one with the higher IQ and a lower EQ can end up losing their job, even still with the higher IQ, and remain jobless. Now, for young Sheldon, in this case, Sheldon was so not smart. For when they went to the hospital, his sister, right from the beginning, from the relation that was going on between the doctor and another lady doctor who was there, Missy was able to tell that the woman likes the man, and the man also liked the woman. So to her, it was funny how both of them were not saying anything and they were acting childish. And young Sheldon didn't know that. So while they were just testing them, that's where his mind was so focused on. And surprisingly, Missy was able to connect the man and the woman by telling the woman that the man is into her, and she was able to tell the man to as well that the woman is into him as well, and they should just tell each other. Then, surprisingly, before the episode ends, these two would get along. All thanks to Missy. How was Missy able to come to the knowledge of that? She was just observant, and Sheldon had to ask her, how did she know? I was like, it was very obvious. Like, it was so obvious, everybody could spot it. But Sheldon, whom is being tagged to be so smart, was not able to spot it because all he knows are equations and theories. He knows nothing about human relations, and he doesn't know any chemistry that goes on when it comes to human behavior and all that. And that's quite unfortunate. Now, when a person has a higher EQ, certain traits, you don't have certain qualities. And as I was studying a bit about the petroleum industry and all that, I got to learn that even on the job, there is still an ongoing training sessions. And we have the geophysicists who also come around, who are able to interpret the data and all the findings that they get. And once they get it, they have to explain certain concepts to the people and all that. And all these things, any new knowledge, new findings, they have to be able to train and teach the engineers who are going to carry out the main work. Who are, I think we have the is it the upper? I think you have certain sectors. So you have the upstream sector, the midstream sectors, and the downstream sector. So all these people would have to get the necessary information, and they gain training every now and then. Now, for somebody who is that intelligent when it comes to their emotions and all that, know how to work with people and accept the fact that, okay, they don't know this, and this person knows this, or this person has been able to acquire this knowledge than I do. All right. So this person, okay, maybe I'm not that free with the person, but if you're intelligent emotionally, you will be able to know that, okay, it's just a matter of time. Over the time, eventually I would get myself acquainted with this person. Or probably maybe we are not yet there on that level of and maybe we playing with each other or playing along with each other or something. But then what is needed now is probably just professional matters. So then you're able to adjust and align yourself to accept the fact that this person has to teach me this. Or should it be the case that you have certain differences with this particular person? Would you be able to put it aside and allow the person to be able to teach you so that you'll be able to proceed in what it is they're supposed to carry out? So you realize that emotional intelligence actually has an influence so much on our IQ than we think our IQ has an influence on our EQ. Because ask me now, how many of us or how many Ghanaians have actually taken tests in IQ? Nobody. Okay, I can't say nobody. Few, just few of us. Few of us even know that there is a test about IQ, that you can test your IQ, right? But then we are all just pushing through, and trust me, what we are basically working with is our emotional quotient or our emotional intelligence. And that's what we are getting through by and by in this life with. So our emotional intelligence is very much needed in our lives, and it's necessary. I'm not saying that we also don't have to work on our intelligence quotient, but when it comes to even the intelligence quotient, it's something that has to do a bit with genetics. We have some people who are born with that ability to pick up things very fast, and there are some people who pick things slowly, and there are those who also average, not so bad, not so good, and they are just in there, and those ones has to do with genetics. So there's no way you find yourself beating someone up or accusing somebody not being able to pick up something that fast. And it would be up to somebody who is emotionally intelligent to know that we have these varieties of people. So should it be the case that this person is not able to pick up certain things quite fast, doesn't mean the person is not good. So we see how wonderful emotional intelligence can actually help a person to be able to work with other people. Should you even give out an instruction? Knowing that you have varieties of people, it helps you to be able to know how to actually manage situations and manage your relationship with these people so that you'll be able to help them get their job done at the end of the day. So our emotional intelligence is really, really important. Now, to the importance of emotional intelligence, I think I've hit upon it quite a few times before we even got here. So we say that it enhances our communication and collaboration, builds better relationships, improves leadership and decision making, reduces stress and improves our well-being, and promotes a great sense of stress management and improves team dynamics. Now, I would say that all that we've gone through so far, or all that we've discussed so far, is not entirely all the knowledge that is there for us to know about in our emotional intelligence. So I would urge us that after this session, we all try our very best to try and visit the podcast that I was making reference to. So Young and Profiting. It's a podcast on Spotify that we can all go and listen in and broaden our knowledge when it comes to our emotional intelligence and learn a few more tips about it, because that's the only way we can improve, so long as we broaden our knowledge based on our emotional intelligence. Now, I believe that I've said quite a handful, and I've realized that, okay, we have quite some minutes on our hands. So I believe I've bored all of you for quite a while now. So I would be bringing much of my talk to an end so that we'll be able to have quite an interactive session. We discuss what we've had the conversation about so far and see how well we can really apply it. So a friend of mine says that the only way to grow is when you learn. But then once you learn to, you have to know how to implement what you've learned. And that's when you grow. So we've learned. So I would want us to be interactive and get to know how well we can truly implement some of these things. And I believe we have some experiences too that we've had so far, so we can bring them to on board so that we would be able to kind of make it more relatable to us and know how we can implement all that we've learned. So once again, the name is Desmond Akwai, and thank you all too for giving me the listening ear.
Thank
Wow.
you so much for a wonderful presentation. Natalie, go for it.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Please, do any of us have any questions? Hello? Please, do we have any questions for this month?
Question. Yeah, Desmond, thank you for the presentation. I really had a good time. I think there was a lot for me to take in there. I really appreciate that. I have just two questions. First one is, how exactly do I build emotional intelligence? Is this something that do you think it's something that is sometimes inherent, or something that we gain through experience, or something that we probably intentionally cultivate? I'd like to know. And then I'd also like to know, as a leader, okay, as a leader, how do I, um, you know, apply emotional intelligence to, let's say, spot out unspoken conflict between my subordinates. Okay, so maybe I'm a or not necessarily a leader, maybe somebody who's just concerned, or as a general colleague at work, maybe there are some people or two parties who have this conflict. They don't necessarily, they haven't necessarily spoken to me, but as somebody who is probably in charge of them, or just concerned, maybe a friend of theirs, how do I position myself to be able to spot that there's something going on with this guy, so that I can best help deal with it for higher productivity
Okay.
place, or just
All right.
friendships. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Please, should I take all the questions, then I answer all of them at once, or answer them once they come?
I think we can answer them whilst we
Please come again.
I was saying I think we can answer them whilst they come, so that we can, unless of course
Okay.
there's more
All right.
questions.
All right. Okay. Sure. All right. Thank you very much for the question. So to know that I got the questions right. The first question in paraphrased version, you said how to build emotional intelligence, right? That's what it was centered around. And the second question is about how to apply emotional intelligence to be able to spot out conflicts between your subordinates. All right. Okay. So
Yes.
okay, thank you. So for the very first question, how to build emotional intelligence, it's basically about what we've discussed so far, right? All that we've discussed so far. So when we go all the way to the components of emotional intelligence, you realize that all the steps in there, or the various components, are not things that point out that you already have them. So it's, even though you see, we mostly say that we are all born with talent, and this person, he had it as a talent. But for us to be able to truly say that this person is good at this particular thing is when the person has practiced it. The person has actually put it into doing. The person is acting upon them. Right. So emotional intelligence, right? It's also not as if once you start um doing it, or just like we've learned about it now, then automatically now you have emotional intelligence to the highest degree. No, 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 no. It doesn't work that way. Like it's even possible that you can even flop at a point in time. Like you might even find it shocking. Like I thought I was intelligent emotionally. Why did I just act on my emotions without thinking twice about it? Right? It's like that. No growth is linear. It's actually a curve. So it's sinusoidal in a way. It goes up and down, that kind of thing. So we actually practice every single one of them. When we talk about self-awareness, every now and then you have to try your very best to be aware of what it is that you are feeling, what you are going through. And it goes all the way to the point that once you know that, oh, I know myself very well, when I get angry, it's not that good. Now, once you know that there are some people who are emotionally intelligent to the point that once they know themselves to that level, they communicate it to other people whom they are either close with or they work with, and let them know that, okay, this is how I am when I am angry. So I'm just telling you so that like you actually be aware when you're around. I don't even trust myself. And a person who is emotional intelligence can be jovial about serious things like this. It's not as if they are literally being jovial, but then they know how to present it in a very soft way. See, somebody can, and let me make it more practical. Another person can be like, and I made a mini show one show here now by Jamie, hey, see that kind of thing. And somebody in that case, somebody would say it's not having a high sense of emotional intelligence. But somebody will be like, oh, for me, when I get angry, it's really not good. So I really don't like getting angry, actually. So somebody communicating that to me, I have gotten information and I get it right. Now, on a particular day when he's getting angry, he tells me, yo, Desmond, I'm getting angry. Like whatever is going on is really getting me angry. I don't really feel good. When he tells me that, based on the previous information that he has already given me. So in a way, he has an influence on my emotions actually. It's kind of like programming. So you actually have to set in your variables and you assign uh, those variables to. And in that sense, that's what the person has actually done to me. So he has actually setting a very variable that he has actually identified in my head. So I know very well that, okay, when this particular person gets angry, it's not really that good. So once he actually sets in a command to remind me that, okay, he's getting angry, then I know it's not that good. So then what do I do? How do I behave around this particular person? So then I watch my ways and try my very best not to be ignorant of what I do. Then, in a way, it also influenced me to make sure that within a period of time, I would ask the person, hey, how are you doing now? Like, are you calm now? You realize that at the end of the day, it would foster some sense of concern and care between you and the people that you work with. So I would say that emotional intelligence is not something that you get like from birth. No, no, it's not um, something that we get from our parents or something like that. No, no, it's not genetic. It's something that we learn and we build upon. A person can be, and it's so possible, a person can be emotionally intelligent today and another day, boom, it's gone completely. Like like means to soon put that said this person will do this. Well, I'm sure we've heard statements like that before. Yeah, and that's what happens. So it's something that requires a conscious effort every now and then to keep it up. So just recently a friend just told me that that's why we call it, I think I was also telling other people too. So that's why we call it a discipline, right? That's why not everybody is doing it. But then I'm not saying this so that some of us will feel reluctant about this. It's something that you'd have to be conscious about. And it's better. Sometimes we feel like it's tiring to be disciplined about certain things, but it's not. Because the cost of not being disciplined supersedes the cost of being disciplined. So we have to do our very best to every now and then be mindful about it, be thoughtful about it. It resides on just these four things. They are very basic, but then putting them into practice, realize that there are lots of things embedded in them. Being self-aware and managing yourself, managing your relationship with people, and also being very much aware about your social surroundings. And in taking that into consideration, every now and then you'll be learning. You'll be learning from whatever it is that goes on around you. Right. So that's my answer to the very first question. Then the second one, how to apply emotional intelligence to spot out conflict between your subordinates. So I'll use my experience as an example. So I have
If it is
two
my network
PROs.
speaking.
Hello. Hello, please can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So to the second question, mine experience actually. So I have two PROs, the main and the deputy. Right. So I I gave them a work to do. I gave them a work to do, and the response or the feedback did not come in at the right time. So I had to individually ask the main. Now you try getting to the main, and now, okay, the main is bringing in the work. Then it's more of a response, not specific from deputy, but looking at the nature of the work. The main, or say, it should give that sense of it's coming from a team, not from one person. But once it is coming from the main, it's more or less feels like the main is trying to prove that I did the work. And that alone gives that sense of there being conflict, or there's not that form of unity amongst them. They don't have that coordination. So the only way to be able to spot that, so when you are in, let me say, going and building up your emotional intelligence in that space or in that capacity, you'd be able to spot some of these conflicts